welcome back. Today I am going to be checking out Tasting History. This is the true story of Titanic's baker. I've seen that he has quite a few different meals from the Titanic and everything else, which honestly really caught my eye, so I think this is where we're going to start. If you guys are new here, please do consider subscribing. It would really help me out, and I would very much appreciate it. Thank you. Are you ready? Let's go!
One of my favorite stories that came out of the sinking of the Titanic was the story of the head baker, Charles Jockin, who famously got drunk and rode on the stern of the ship as it went beneath the waves. And as I tell his story, I'm going to make a cocktail that he might have enjoyed. The Murphy cocktail, using a recipe from 1910. Charles Jockin and the Murphy cocktail, this time on Drinking History.
Yay! Yo! Oh, this is cool. This is really cool. I like that a lot. That's clean.
So we really don't know what Charles Jockin was drinking that night on April 14th, 1912. Many stories say that it was whiskey, though that probably comes from the story of Walter Belford, who was actually an imposter who years later stole many aspects of Jockin's story. He was never even on the Titanic. Now during the...
What the fuck? You stolen Ballard being on the fucking Titanic? That's fucking cringe as hell. That's fucking sad, dude. That's sad as hell.
Inquiry, Jockin talked about drinking and just said that he had liquor. And when pressed on specifically what it was he was drinking, they basically said, it doesn't matter, so all we know is liquor. Years later, his family claimed that he said that he had been drinking schnapps, but then other family members said that he didn't drink at all, which is definitely not the case. So I've opted to make a drink that he probably would have enjoyed had he been able to sit down in the first-class smoke room. A Murphy cocktail using a recipe from Jack's manual written in 1910. 40% Italian vermouth, 40% rye whiskey, 20% slow gin, a half glass cracked ice. Frappe and strain, serve. So for this cocktail, I'm using 3 liquors that would have been available in 1912 and are available today online at Curiata. I'll put a link in the description. So it's 1 jigger of Carpano Antica Vermouth, 1 jigger of Canadian Club Rye Whiskey, and a half jigger of Hayman's Slow Gin. Add some ice, and then shake well.
Shaky, 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 shaky.
And then strain into a rocks glass, half filled with cracked ice. And speaking of ice, Jockin often claimed that he saw the iceberg on that night of April 14th, as did many on the ship. But when he told his family about it, he added the lovely little embellishment, "I knew it was an iceberg when I saw it because I saw a polar bear, and he waved to me."
Yo, that drink must have been really good. If a polar bear started waving at you from an iceberg, I'll take what he's having, man. Good God.
So let's give this drink a try. Now, he doesn't mention any kind of garnish, though I think an orange twist or a lemon twist might be good, but I want to try it with nothing. Cheers.
Cheers.
Interesting. That's good.
Oh?
So you get a little bit of the whiskiness. You get that kind of woody, this whiskey has a little bit of a woodiness and a little bit of the burn, but that is really put to rest by the sweetness of these 2 ingredients, especially the slow gin. You get that berryness, but it's not overwhelming because of the whiskey. Honestly, it really just reminds me a lot of a Manhattan, which, you know, with those 2 ingredients kind of makes sense. And then this does add a little complexity to it, but I think in doing so, it's missing a little bit of that whiskey character that you want in a whiskey drink.
Yeah, okay, so I won't speak for whiskey drinkers, but there are a lot of people who, when they have like one liquor that they drink, you want to taste said liquor. Like, because, okay, if you're ordering, like, let's say a specific brand as well. Like, if you like only, I don't know, Tito's or like something of that nature. Like it's, you know, the exact taste that you want. It's not as enjoyable when it's not like at the forefront, I guess. And I almost feel like you might not like balanced cocktails either. Because maybe I'm just thinking at it like a different way because I drink straight liquor instead of really mixed. If I want to taste something, it's probably not going to be a balanced drink because I want the actual liquor to be quite loud, I guess you could say. Like, but this doesn't seem bad. It's just a 2 versus 1 kind of deal. So it's just not as prevalent, probably.
Also, I don't know that I would do it on ice. He's very
It'll
specific
dilute.
in how he wants it, and I had to kind of question...
Dilute? Dilute? Dilute. It'll dilute.
What he meant by frappe, but then looking throughout the rest of the book, it became very clear that it is served over crushed ice. I don't think it needs it. I think it would do much better in you know, up in a glass like this, but I didn't write the recipe. Now going
Fair
back
enough.
to Jockin, his little embellishment about the polar bear obviously did not happen.
You don't believe him? You don't believe that a polar bear waved to him? What the fuck, man? It could have happened. Were you there? Were you actually there?
And there are other aspects of his story that kind of change with each telling, because he is asked about it many, many times. And of course, when you tell the same story over and over, details will kind of change. Also, he was probably very drunk that night, so, you know, things are a little fuzzy, especially in that kind of situation. But for the most part, the narrative of his story remains consistent. And this is that narrative.
Ooh!
Charles Jockin was born in Birkenhead, just outside of Liverpool in 1878. So he was only 33 years old when he was given the post of head baker on the Titanic.
That seems like a really good, like, job. At 33? Yeah? Because, you know, you're spending probably, like, your 20s and stuff, like, working through kind of the bullshit of becoming a baker or a chef in general, and then getting something like the Titanic or like a cruise or like anything kind of large at 33, especially back then. I feel like that's a real accomplishment, you know? In hindsight, probably not a good... Okay, listen. I mean getting the job title, okay? I don't mean specifically working the Titanic at 33, obviously, because of what happens. I just mean being in the position, getting that position. You know what I mean?
Though the person that plays him in the 97 movie is like in his late 50s, so I don't really see why they did that, but neither here nor there, that doesn't matter. What does matter is Charles Jockin's story of what happened to him on the night of April 14th, 1912. He told the British Inquiry that he was actually in his bunk when the ship hit the iceberg. Even though he was midship, he still felt the collision and got up. Not long after, second steward George Dodd came by and said, "Get up, lads, we're sinking." And whether or not he had already been drinking at that point in the night, we don't know. It wouldn't be surprising based on other people's accounts of Jockin, but he was clear-headed enough to know that he had a job to do. Now, each lifeboat was already stocked with water and hardtack. But one of Jockin's duties was...
What was that demonstration?
Now, each lifeboat was already stocked with water and hardtack.
I mean, I know this is the stuff that's like, it's as hard as tile and shit, but like, just that look of, this is either, oh my god, what did I create? Or, oh my god, how did people eat this? Or something of the like. Oh no.
But one of Jockin's duties was to further stock the lifeboats with fresh bread. So at 12:15 a.m., he roused the 13 bakers on his staff and directed them to get bread and take it up to the lifeboats. 15 minutes later, all the bread had left the bakery, and so he locked up and went up on deck to help load lifeboat number 10, which was the lifeboat that he was assigned to actually have been on when the lifeboat lowered into the water. It was women and children first, but those women on deck said that they felt safer on the ship rather than being lowered on a tiny boat in the North Atlantic.
You feel safer on a sinking ship than being put into a not sinking boat into the water? I mean, okay, it's gonna be scary no matter what, but if you ain't taking it, I'll go then, for real. For real.
And many of them simply walked away and went inside.
All right. I mean, okay.
So Jockin went down to A deck and physically took women and children and dragged them up to the boat deck.
Yes!
When he got back up there, he had a mother and her 2 children. But by now, the ship was listing quite a bit, and the lifeboat was dangling several feet away from the side of the ship. The children and the mother were afraid to make that leap, but Jockin ain't got no time for that.
Shove him!
Another crew member, Frank Evans, said that Jockin threw them onto the women and he was catching children by their dresses and chucking them in. But the mother refused to be chucked and instead decided to leap. She missed her footing. The steward named Bert got hold of her foot, and she swung head downwards for a few minutes. Somebody caught her into B deck. No, A deck. Jockin doesn't mention her again, but Evans did say that she was able to get back up to the boat deck just in time to be reunited with her children. Once the boat was full, though it wasn't full, it could have easily carried 10 more people, Jockin stood there waiting to be ordered into the boat that he was supposed to be on. But instead, the officer ordered 3 other men into the boat, and so Jockin stood there and watched the boat lower without him. He said that he thought it would set a bad example if he was to leap in without the order. Well, after being, frankly, screwed out of his place on the lifeboat, I went down to my room and had a drop of liquor that I had down there. And then, while I was there, I saw the old doctor and spoke to him, and then I came upstairs again. He knew that there weren't enough lifeboats, and was told that the last lifeboat had just lowered into the water. I went down onto B deck. The deck chairs were lying right along, and I started throwing deck chairs through the large ports. He threw about 50 deck chairs into the water, hoping that one would still be available when he needed it. Then I went to the deck pantry, and while I was in there, I thought I would take a drink of water. And while I was getting the drink of water, I heard a kind of crash, as if something had buckled. It was not an explosion or anything like that. It was like as if the iron was parting, as if part of the ship had buckled, and then I heard a rush overhead. He came out to see people fleeing toward the stern of the ship, and so he ran along, though tried to stay separate from all of the other people. And just then, the ship lurched, and he said that he saw hundreds of people thrown to the side. But he was able to grab a hold of the railing and swung himself onto the outside of the ship and worked his way along the starboard side to the very back of the poop deck. He testified that he didn't see anyone else there, so that makes this exchange completely historically inaccurate. But in those last seconds, rather than panicking, well, I had tightened my belt and I had transferred something out of this pocket into my stern pocket. I was just wondering what next to do when she went. And when she went, rather than being sucked down with the ship, he says that he was able to just step off into the water like an elevator. I do not believe my head went under the water at all.
I guess it depends on how quickly, right? Because the suction would just be if it's like a very kind of just swoop straight down into the water, right?
For over 2 hours, he treaded water in the pitch black, unable to see anything around him. And most people died long before 2 hours. During the inquiry, they suggested that it was the amount of alcohol that he had coursing through his bloodstream that actually kept him warm in the water.
See? You ever on a sinking ship? Drink some whiskey.
And I'm pretty sure science refutes that.
We ain't gonna worry about that. We ain't gonna worry about that.
But something worked. because he was still floating at daylight when he saw the overturned collapsible boat. It had 25 men clinging to it, including Second Officer Lightaller. He swam toward it, though he knew that there was no space on it for him, though that didn't mean he didn't try, but he was pushed away.
You're gonna push me away? You're gonna push me away? No. I'm gonna get real nasty. We gonna find a way. We're gonna trade out. We're gonna do something. Okay? Or someone's dying with me. I don't know what to say, man.
But one of the men, a cook named Isaac Maynard, reached out and grabbed his hand and pulled him to the boat. He didn't get him onto it, but he held him at the side. A half hour later, one of the lifeboats, with room for 10 people, came within about 50 yards, and so he let go of Maynard's hand and swam to it. A few hours later, the Carpathia arrived and rescued them, and his only ailment was frozen, swollen feet, which later he claimed were thawed out in an oven. They popped me in the oven like one of my own pies. Now, I don't know if that's true, and the story about the polar bear is definitely not true, and there's still some questions about if a bunch of alcohol can actually keep you warm when treading water in the North Atlantic. But I can tell you, if I ever do find myself in that kind of situation, I'll make sure to have myself a few Murphy cocktails just to be safe. And I'll see you next time on Drinking History.
Thank you. That was cool. That was really cool. Make the cocktail in your mouth. The sink is shipping. Dude, no, that's great. I like that. Just mix it all like in one go. Shut up. Shut up. Don't mention that I said the sink is shipping. Shut up. Shut up. I was hoping no one heard that. Okay, all right. This was really interesting. I didn't expect it to be a cocktail, so very interesting to see the very, I guess, like simple, time relevant like liquors and everything is very cool to me. And the story, it was very like to the point. I was entertained the entire time. Very nice. I enjoyed this a lot, actually. Make sure you guys check out the original video. It's going to be linked down below. If you liked my video, make sure you like and subscribe so I can see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye!